Hey guys, so today we're talking batteries, and disclaimer, if you're looking for some sort of light and easy 15-second dance video, go ahead and swipe up right now. Just swipe the heck up, because that's not what we're doing today. This is in the weeds with a dilemma, a problem that I have so far not been able to find a satisfactory solution to. And I'm posting this not as a tutorial, not to show you what I've figured out. I'm posting it because I haven't figured it out, but in the past I've got so many great ideas and so many solutions from the TikTok mesh and maker communities that I'm hoping by posting this, maybe you'll find it interesting to think about the problem, but also maybe you have a solution, or maybe you'll ask a question that will lead me to a solution, because it's happened before, so maybe it'll happen again. The initial problem is this right here, which is a lithium ion battery, which is what most LoRa dev boards that you'd see in a solar mesh node, like the ones you've seen many of on my channel, would be designed to be powered by. Solar isn't powering the board at night, so you need some sort of way to store the electricity, and that's what a lithium ion or lithium polymer battery does a very good job at under normal operating conditions. But as they would say in Game of Thrones, winter is coming, and winter brings extreme temperatures, especially in my part of the world, where temperatures can easily drop below, -5 or -10 degrees Fahrenheit for several days at a time in January or February, maybe even March if we're particularly unlucky. And with that, if you've ever tried to use your phone outside when you're skiing or outdoors on a really cold day, you'll know you have degraded battery performance. But more concerning than that, with a solar node, which charges during the day, and it may be very cold on the day when it's charging, charging at particularly low temperatures, from the literature I've read, can actually damage your battery and cause it to develop like heavy metal crystals or something like that. That's not a terrible technical explanation, but it's something with the internal chemical makeup of the battery that gets changed, and it actually can damage it, permanently impair its capacity, and even increase your chances of thermal runaway. I'm not going to attempt to explain how thermal runaway occurs, but it's, from my understanding, something like the hobbyist's version of a nuclear meltdown. So we really want to avoid that. So one alternative to lithium ion or polymer batteries that has been proposed many times, almost from the first video I ever uploaded in the comments on this channel, and also I've heard lots of chatter about in the different Discord communities that I'm part of for my regional Meshtastic community, is something called LiFePO4, or Lithium Iron Phosphate batteries. These have a number of advantages. First of all, they last longer. They can support more charge cycles over their lifetime, but also they're supposed to be much more resilient to extreme temperatures, and especially interesting for our purposes, much more resilient to extreme low temperatures. They don't have their performance degraded as much, and most importantly, they don't apparently suffer permanent damage that could lead to safety or performance issues in the future. So very intriguing. But after I purchased a couple of these, I found out very quick that there is a fundamental problem here, and that is all dev boards that I'm aware of are designed to run off of 3.7 volts or thereabout, which is what makes the lithium ion batteries so perfect for them, because that's the native voltage of this type of battery. You don't get that with a LiFePO4 battery. They start out at a different base voltage, which is 3.2 on this little guy right here, and then it goes up in increments of 3.2, depending on how many you put together. I guess there's just 2 cells in this big guy, and it is therefore 6.4 volts. You can also get them in 12 volts. I would presume you can get them in 18 or 24, but I have not looked. But I've got a 3.2 volt and a 6.4 volt right here. And we'll look at the 3.2 volt first. This actually was repurposed or stolen or salvaged, or however you want to think about it, from a solar landscaping light that I purchased at Home Depot for about $7 this week. I don't know, honestly, if you could even buy the 1000 milliamp hour 3.2 volt lithium iron phosphate battery for $7. Maybe you can, you probably can, but you definitely couldn't buy the battery and the charge controller and the BMS that are all in. This is just the top of one of those solar landscaping lights that I've taken off for easier access. So what are we going to do about the fact that the voltage is wrong? Well, there's a simple solution to that, and that is we get a little boost module like this guy right here, and we tune it to convert whatever's coming out of that to precisely, or almost precisely, 3.7 volts. So you always want to make sure these are going in the right direction. In this case, the electricity is flowing that way. So we'll hook it up going in that direction. So clearly in a real life application, you'd want to solder these points, but this will work for our purposes just for testing. So you can see we've got 3.3, almost 3.4. That's interesting, but we've got 3.3 volts coming out from this 3.2 volt, supposedly, LiFePO4 battery. But then I already tuned this, so we should have 3.8, which is close enough for government work, to 3.7 volts. So this should work. This should be great. But there's a catch. And this is dilemma number one that we run into. And that is that all of these solar charge boards in these lights are intuitively designed not to power the light in the daytime, which is great for a light, but terrible for a Meshtastic node. So you'll notice right now, we're getting, see if I can do this with one hand, we're getting 3.3 right there, we're getting 3.8 down there, but the moment this thing hits the light, we fall off a cliff. And you'll notice we're not even reading voltage anymore. The multimeter over here has switched over. It's just measuring like potential difference. It's not measuring any real power coming through here whatsoever. Now, we cover this up again, right back to 3.8 volts. Yeah, so I think you get the point. This is not going to work anytime that the solar panel is providing power to the board. So that's a big problem. And I know what you're going to say. Well, why don't you just replace this with a charge board and a BMS that doesn't do that? Well, I have looked for a while now, and it seems to me that most of the in fact, all of the off-the-shelf charge controllers for LiFePO4 batteries in the 3.2 volt class have this same feature, because they're all designed for solar landscaping lights, and there's, I guess, no possibility that anybody could want to use them for anything else. They all have the auto shut-off feature, which I don't think, at first I was like, oh, they put some sort of like photon sensor in there, but I'm pretty sure it's just, you know, anytime that it senses a charge coming from this, it turns it off. So nothing that magical going on. Great feature, awesome feature if you're wanting to efficiently run solar landscaping lights. Terrible feature if you're trying to power a LoRa dev board and send Meshtastic or MeshCore messages during the busiest time of the day traffic-wise. So if anyone can think of a different way to do this, or if you know, especially if you know of a charge controller in the 3.2 volt class that's specifically for LiFePO4 batteries that doesn't have a daytime shutoff feature, please send it my way. I would be in your debt, but I've not been able to find one. So until somebody can fix that or suggest a solution, I'm kind of calling that a dead end. And we're going to move on to our 6-volt. This is a little more of an involved setup right here. We've actually got 2 LiFePO4 cells in here. This has its own dedicated BMS inside of it that gives it over discharge and overcharge protection, as well as a number of other features. And I'll just set that right here. We'll check it out to see what we're getting. Oops. Yeah, actually, that's interesting. I guess we're getting close to less than half of a charge on there because we're only getting about 5.4 volts at this point, which honestly, that's so close. That's so close to 5 volts, which I think is about the threshold for what you can safely connect to a 3.7 volt board. But really, we'd rather be safe than sorry. We don't want to be, even if you technically could run it for a while, it might cause overheating and degradation of the components in here. So we really don't want to run a dev board at an incorrect voltage. And also, I think when this is at a higher level of charge, the discharge is more like 6 volts or above. So that's another problem we can easily solve just by connecting a step-down board, a step-down module to this guy. So just connect these little alligator clamps right here. And already we've got our little light on. Put that there just to hold it. So what do we got? Just to prove again, we've got 5.45 right at the tap, but then we've got still 5.45 exactly right there at the input for the step down, but then reposition so you can see this. Easier said than done. Then, if I tuned this right, yeah, we've got 3.68 on the output from the step down. So that's doing exactly what we want. That's doing its job. And we could right now, if I soldered some hookup wires with the correct JST connector that the V4 takes, we could actually plug this into it right now and it would run just fine. But there's another dilemma here that we run into, and this one does have a solution, but I'm not sure how much I like it. The problem that we run into is this, as I understand it, is basically a one-way street. There is power flowing that way, but not back that way, which means it kind of subverts the way that most of these dev boards that do have solar ports, like the V4 or the L1, WIO Tracker L1 from Seed Studio, or the rack WizBlock, all have solar connectors and battery connectors, and they all work in a way that will not work with this setup. Why is that? Well, these are designed that your battery connects to the JST connector for the battery, and power flows 2 ways through that. You also connect your solar panel or your solar charge controller directly right in there, so power is coming in from the solar panel. We never need power to flow back to the solar panel, so it's fine that that's a one-way connection. But the battery input needs to be a 2-way connection, because we need both for the battery to be able to power the board when there's no solar power, but we also need power to be able to flow out to charge the battery, or else battery will just run down, and once the batteries run down, you're done. There's no way to charge it up. Solar panel's not doing anything at that point. How could we get around this? Well, I can think of a solution, and that is we need to get a 6-volt solar charge, or 12-volt, depending on what battery you're using, charge controller, and put that in between the solar panel and the LiFePO4 battery and the dev board and your step-down board, because you're still going to need the step-down board. So energy comes from the sun, gets collected by the solar panel, sent down to the charge controller. This is very much how a like solar home battery backup system works. If you're familiar with that, this is nothing new. It powers the battery when the battery is needing to be charged and we're getting solar power from the sun, but then it also powers the device you have connected to it, in this case the dev board. And we'll still need, because this is still 6 volts or 12 volts or whatever you're doing with all this nonsense, you need to get that down to around 3.7 volts for your dev board to function properly. So we've now got the charge controller and the step down board, in addition to our battery and our dev board and our solar panel, which are the 3 components I already have. So this, I have not completely put it together because some of the components are still being shipped to me right now. I do intend to put this together, but as like a universal feature for all of my solar nodes, which I have 5 or 6 of them now, I don't know that I like this that much. And I'll tell you why. Even though it works, and even though if everything's done correctly and everything works the way that the manufacturers say it's supposed to work, we're going from having just like 2 points of failure to a whole bunch of potential points of failure. We're going from having a board, a battery, and a solar panel to having 3 boards. So we're adding 2 boards, and then if you count up all the solder connections, we're adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, 10 solder points when you count all the positives and negatives you're going to solder on there. Each of those, in my opinion, is kind of a point of failure. The boards could go bad. They could get damaged. They could be defective. Each of those solder points could break. I could do it wrong. I shouldn't do it wrong, but I could do it wrong. I'm extremely fallible, as I've already probably demonstrated to all of you who are picking up all the problems in all of this. So I think this is a solution. I don't know if I like it, because with everything you gotta ask the question, what are my goals, and does this make sense in terms of those goals? And when I look at all of the expense and time that it's going to take to do this, I honestly wonder if it would be easier and more efficient and more cost effective just to go out once or twice a year and swap out the lithium ion batteries in all of my nodes so they don't have time to get degraded. Would that be a better solution than this? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if there's another solution that doesn't involve all of this. Let me know if you think there is. Let me know if you think it would be better just to swap these out once or twice a year in all of my nodes. Let me know if there's some other solution to all of this that I'm not even considering, because I'm sure there's books, terabytes worth of things that I'm not considering, but maybe you have considered those things. So thank you so much for watching this long and in the weeds video that was not a fun 15-second TikTok dance video or even a flashy little montage of me like soldering stuff with music in the background. It was none of those things. It was probably boring for some people, but thank you for sticking with me, and thank you for all of the ideas that I know I'm gonna get, because yeah, I need help. I'm not an electrical engineer. I'm not really a hardware guy. I'm not an anything guy, at least as far as LoRa or making stuff goes. I just got into this like 6 or 7 months ago. Hard to believe it's even been that long now. So I need help. Don't know what I'm doing. Have a lot of ideas for what will not work. I have one idea for something that could work, but I don't like it. I feel like it's too complicated. But maybe that's what I should do. Let me know what you think. Thank you again for your thoughts. Thank you again for watching this long video. Again, not a tutorial. Not a tutorial. I'm not showing you what you should do. I'm showing you that I don't know what to do. This could even be a cautionary tale. You know, if I come in here with another video in a few weeks and I'm like doing stuff like this, you'll know something went horribly wrong. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. I try not to take unnecessary risks. I try to be safe, but I'll just say, not a tutorial, not advice. Please be safe. Follow best practices and follow the law where you live. Speaking of following, don't forget to follow this channel. this account, because I'll have some updates coming when I do start to actually implement some sort of LiFePO4 solution on at least one node, because I'm going to do it at least once before I decide if it makes sense for my whole setup. So don't forget to hit that follow button. Thank you again for watching, and until next time, have a good one.